Hi, this is the second part of a two-part series where I cover hardware/external green screen keyer workflows with Unreal Engine 5. Part 1 is an overview and comparison of Blackmagic Ultimatte models and Aximmetry keyer. This video, on the other hand, is a step-by-step setup and operation of the devices I talked about in the first video of the series. I suggest you watch Part 1 first. First and foremost, we need to talk about capture cards. Unreal Engine currently supports Blackmagic and Asia cards, and for scalable virtual production workflows, I suggest you go with the DeckLink 8K Pro, which is 4 independent input-output ports that you can use at will. Unreal Engine has also been increasing its support for NDI workflows, and I'll do a video about that in the future. So let's start with part 1, the Ultimatte HD Mini. Connect the HDMI cable from your camera to the camera foreground input on the Ultimatte. Next, connect the HDMI or SDI cable from your capture card and plug it into the background port in the Ultimatte. If your capture card is SDI only, you will need a converter like this one. Okay, so with my Ultimatte software control open, without a background input plugged in, we haven't configured our Unreal Engine project yet. This is what you see. First of all, the Ultimatte software control software, it's a very complicated piece of software with lots of submenus, okay? But as long as you've done it a couple of times, and by couple I mean 100 times, you'll definitely get muscle memory from it. So for this start, we're only going to focus on the bottom tray here, and later on, after we've set up our Unreal scene, we'll go up to these here, okay? So now here, the bottom tray, you have program, which is a final program. As you can see, it is black because I am not sending any signal from Unreal Engine yet. The foreground input is what the Ultimatte is seeing from your camera, okay? My camera is running at 1080p, 50 frames per second. So camera connected, you'll see the foreground input. Background input, there's nothing. And then you have the fill, which is the after key, after the key has been processed by the Ultimatte. That's what it looks like. And the combined matte, okay? This is where the magic happens. And the combined matte is what you look at when you want to tweak everything to make your matte perfect. As you can see here in my false color profile, you can see that my green screen is not really well lit. Okay, so that's why you see a lot of noise here, okay, on the in the combined matte, okay, a lot of noise in the white part, and we're gonna have to fix that later. Now let's go to Unreal Engine and configure our background input so that we can have something in the program out, shall we? Okay, so here we have an Unreal Engine scene. As you can see, first things first, we need to enable plugins. Go to plugins and type Blackmagic if you're using a Blackmagic card. Otherwise, just use, if you're using Asia card, type Asia. Okay, don't restart yet. Go ahead and type media. Okay, so you need two plugins here, Media Framework Utilities, Media IO Framework. Now you can restart your project. Okay, now with the plugins already set up, I'm gonna go ahead and click on the content browser, right click, go to Media, Blackmagic Media Output. Name it whatever you want and double click on it. Okay, open configuration here. Click the drop-down menu. Choose the resolution you want to send to the Ultimatte HD Mini. Because my camera is coming in at 1080p 50 frames per second, I have to match that here. Even if my capture card can support higher frame rates, I cannot. If I do that, I will not get a signal. So I will choose 1080p 50 frames per second, apply, and you don't have to touch anything else here. Save it and close it. Back to the content browser, not content browser, excuse me. Let's find a camera. Because it will be sending a camera view. It will not be sending the viewport view. Find a camera, position it where you want it to be, where you want the background of your Ultimatte HD Mini to be. Now click on Window, Virtual Production, Media Capture. In Media Capture, you will go on to Media Viewport Capture and you click the plus button. Expand it, choose a camera. I will just type Cine camera, that's my camera, and then choose the Blackmagic media output that you just made. And now you will click Capture. As soon as you click Capture, the signal from this camera, the view of this camera, will be sent to the Ultimatte. Okay, but before we do that, I just want to configure my camera a little better. Okay, so this is what I want to send. Go back to that window and click Capture. The moment you click Capture, your camera view will be sent to the Ultimatte. Okay, so do we have it or not? Let's see it right here. Right now I'm on the foreground input. That's why I don't see anything, because you're only seeing my foreground. If you move over to the program, you can see that the Unreal Engine scene is being transmitted live to my Ultimatte as a background. Well, but what about the sides? You know, the sides of my room, the parts that are not covered by the green screen. We'll deal with that later. So now it's time for us to learn how to use these settings here, because it can be very complicated, okay? First things first, there are many submenus, okay, in this software. And when you go into some of the submenus, you don't find the menus you were previously in, and many people get confused and I don't know how to return. Okay, so for all these tabs here, each has their own set of submenus, and if you just want to go back to the main submenu page, you click on it again. Okay, so let me explain what these tabs do. Matte is everything regarding your key. Okay, we'll cover this very soon. Foreground is everything connected to the camera input, okay, which is me. Background is everything connected to the scene that Unreal Engine is sending. Layer, matte in, and settings, we're not going to cover these today because these are more specific. These things can make your key perfect, but the requirement is that your green screen is well lit, which mine isn't. So it doesn't matter how much I fine-tune with these menus here. It won't matter because my green screen is not well lit to begin with. So we'll only focus on the most important, these ones. The Ultimatte automatically applies a key to your scene, okay? And how do we see that? Well, what do you think of the key right now? I think it's okay-ish. We have a little, you know, with my fingers, a little funky there. I can see a little spill. But what would we do in this situation? First thing you would do is go to Matte and go to Combine Matte, because in the Combine Matte, that's where you see what's going on with your key. You cannot see what's going on with the final program. So what we need to do here is make sure that I am entirely black and my background here is entirely white. So the first thing you would do is when you click on Matte, you would go to Matte Density and you would just adjust it so that myself and my table are entirely black, okay? You don't want it to be transparent like this, because if it's transparent like this, it will be transparent in the scene. So you don't want to do that. Going back to the Combine Matte, you just want to make it so I'm completely dark, okay? And then we have a problem. The white part of the Combine Matte is very noisy. Okay, it's super noisy, and it's there are some gray areas too. We need to fix that. How do we fix that? First thing is we need to fix the noise. The noise here in this stance is called veil. Remember, every time you touch a submenu, there are submenus inside the submenus. You need to get used to that. And if you don't know how to go back, always click on Matte again, and you'll return to the matte functions of this software, okay? Well, the matte density is not the way. Okay, I think it's a little better now. Okay, so if you go to Veil, Master Veil, you will need to deal with the noise now. You don't want to go overboard with this. Minus 15 or plus 15, it's going above 15, minus or plus, depending on if your mat is inverted or not, is a bad idea. So let's move it until all this noise, at least the majority of it, is being dealt with. Can you see? When it's at 0, I have lots of noise, but if I keep pulling to the right, not exceeding 15%, I can reduce the noise considerably. And if you go back to program, well, things are, you know, much better than they were before, but we're still not done with that. Still in Mat, if you clicked in Veil previously, now you have other submenus, and if you want to go back, click on Mat. Okay, moving over to Combine Mat, that's where we see what's going on with our key. We have a cleanup because the purpose is to make the white part of my green screen completely white. Okay, you have a cleanup here. You can do cleanup to make it white, to make it more clean, because there's still a little noise. But going overboard with this will affect your hair, will affect some detail in your key. Because my green screen is really bad, I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. But these are the only things I would touch here. Okay, so for now, when you plug your scene and yourself into the Ultimatte, it already does its best to key everything the best it can. You still need to fix the noise and a little cleanup. So to recap, Mat is everything about your key. Okay, so usually what you do here is when you click Mat, you would probably only touch matte density. If you have reflective things like a phone or my computer, you would use the matte density along with black gloss, okay, to tell Ultimatte what is supposed to be reflective and not. In my case, I don't have many reflective things, so I would just use matte density. The other things here that you have shadow level, you need to play around with these things, and if your green screen is lit really well, these things will improve your matte quality really considerably. But because mine isn't, it doesn't even make sense to try to fix those things, because it won't improve anyways. But as you can see, the matte is the keying has been done pretty well, if you ask me. Next one, foreground. Okay, still a lot of new menus. Can you see when you switch them, you have new submenus, and each one of these has their own submenus. Okay, but here on the foreground, you want to fix me. You want to make me merge with the background better. Okay, first here, what we have here is a flare. Flare is dealing with spill and also your skin tone. Okay, so you have a skin tone knob here. Usually you can tweak it while you look at the screen. I have a monitor plugged out of the program out of the Ultimatte, so you can tweak it a little bit, not too much, or you just change your color, the color of your skin. And light warm is just trying to reduce the spill. Ultimatte tries its best to apply a spill suppression, but if you want to do it further, it's here. So these two things it will work with. When dealing with the foreground here, the other knobs you would not touch unless it's absolutely necessary. Of course, you can play around with it. You still have black and white balance and everything, but what I do here is just flare 1, skin tone, light warm. Okay, if you cannot find the menus again, click on foreground again. Okay, what we just did was under flare 1, but now we can do a little further. We can just go in black white levels. When you click foreground, black, white level, you have black level master and white level master. Here is where you can do a little balancing in your image. If you use see, it's only affecting your foreground. White level master is affecting your skin brightness, and the black level master is affecting your the dark sides of your foreground. Okay, here. And then you have contrast and saturation. You can apply contrast here, and you can also apply saturation. I'm not going to touch on the saturation. Now we can move over to the background. Just so you don't get lost, we are in the foreground menu now. We started with matte, which deals with keying, all things keying related. Let me go back to program. Foreground, which deals with foreground me related. Now the background, it's time to make the UE scene merge with me more naturally. under foreground, what I usually do here is only touch black, white, and white levels, contrast, and saturation. Let's do that. Black and white, black level master. Remember, foreground also has black level master and white level master. So does the background. It also has its own, but this time it's only affecting the background. So let's raise the color of the scene a little bit. And now white level. Okay, so you can level up the scene better, the background. Still not perfect, because the ideal case would be having someone over there with my computer tweaking the scene as I'm tweaking the background, applying post-process settings and effects to my scene too, so that it merges with me better. But still, so what we did here was the background, black and white level, the black master and the white level master. Now we can move on to contrast and saturation. I think my scene is not saturated enough, so I will just apply some saturation. And also I can see I can apply contrast if needed. Okay, so this, I think, for a beginner, because trust me when I say this software has too many submenus, and you will only overcome learning how to use them by using a lot. Okay, I'm just giving you an overview of how to use the Ultimatte HD Mini. So what we did here today was matte, foreground, and background. But now the big question is, how do I deal with the... Oh, I can see my scene is pretty blue now. Okay, so with the blue side here, I can also, there's also some white balancing knobs here. If you go to background here, let's see what I can see with white level. What does it do? Not much, but I remember there was a temperature slider too. But anyways, this is how it would work with the Ultimatte. But now let's get rid of these sides here. You can do that with the Ultimatte, but it is called a garbage matte. Okay, what a garbage matte does is tell the Ultimatte, for example, if I apply I take a picture of this scene with my camera static, not moving, and then I go on Photoshop and I make a mask around my table, because as you can see, my table is going beyond the green screen. So if I try to apply a window skew, which is called, it's going to encompass me fully with this 3D scene, but it will also cut out my table. So what I do with the garbage matte is tell Ultimatte to ignore my table. Okay, because I don't have one applied right now, I will just show you how it works. This would be in matte in, window left. See what, when I pull the knob, see what happens. Window right, when I pull the knob, and now I have softness, window softness left, make it soft to merge, window softness right. Okay, if I had a garbage matte applied to my scene, this table would not be cut out. But because I don't, I'm just demonstrating to you how even if you have a very tiny green screen, you can still encompass yourself in the scene. And that's it for this part. So what do you think of the key? I think it's okay. My camera is not the best anyways, so my hair is fine. There's still a lot of noise. Let's take a look at the combined matte. Still a lot of problems, but that would be fixed with a better green screen. So this was it for this part. Let's move over to the next part. I hope you enjoyed this one. Part 2, the Ultimatte 4K. The setup involves sending separate matte/key and fill signals to your capture card. If you don't know what that is, go back to part 1 of this video. So here, connect your camera to the FG or foreground input of the Ultimatte 4K or Ultimatte HD. If your camera is HDMI only, you'll need a converter like this one. Then connect the fill output of the Ultimatte to one of the ports on your capture card. Next, connect the matte output of the Ultimatte to another port on your capture card. Okay, first things first, we need to create a media bundle to get the inputs from the Ultimatte 4K. Ultimatte 4K is sending two outputs, the fill and matte, and we need to create separate media bundles inside UE5 to receive those separate inputs. So if you haven't, go ahead and open your content browser. Let's make a folder first. We'll just call this Black Magic Stuff. Okay, go into this folder. Now we need to create two separate media bundles, one for fill and another one for matte. Right click, go to media bundle. This one I will name Blackmagic BMD underscore fill. And you can see that it created some folder with some assets. We don't have to worry about this right now. Right click again, media bundle BMD underscore matte, which will also create its own folder with assets inside. With that created, you just go, let's save it. So now what we need to do is configure, I'll configure the fill first. So double click to open it, and you can see that a new window comes into view. You have a bunch of stuff here. Okay, if you first onto the media source, if there's nothing here, you just go and select Blackmagic source. And then if you expand all these arrows, you will see that there's a bunch of menus that you need to tweak. Let's go here into configuration. We can go onto this arrow here, expand it. If it's on auto, I suggest you just untick it because you need to do this manually. Since this is a Blackmagic fill, we need to configure the correct input in your graphics card. I'm using a Decklink 8K Pro, which has 4 separate input or output. So I need to know exactly where my fill from the Ultimatte is coming, and where it's been plugged into in my graphics card. So I know because I already checked that my fill is number 2. Okay, because my fill is number 2, I will select number 2 for my fill, and I know the signal that is coming in, it's 4K at 30 frames per second. Okay, so that's what's coming in. So you need to do this. You just apply, and you don't have to do anything else here. Just save it and close this window. And now you take this media bundle, the fill media bundle, and you bring it into the scene. Okay, so you can see my talent in the studio. Okay, so this is the fill. Okay, you need to bring both media. Let me delete this blueprint that is not related. So you can see that I brought my media bundle into the scene. So that's one of them. Let me just save it. And now I will need to configure my matte. Okay, with matte is the same. You double click on the matte bundle and it will open up. You go onto media source and you select Blackmagic media source. You expand these arrows here where you need to select where exactly on your capture card it is coming from. You just untick auto, and I know that my matte is plugged into my capture card's input 1. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing here, 4K 30 frames per second, input 1, and apply. Save it and close it. And just as I did, well, this camera is a little too fast. Okay, just as I did with my fill media bundle, I need to do the same with my matte media bundle and bring it onto the scene. The orientation might be wrong, but it doesn't matter. All you need to do is turn around and you can see a perfect combined matte. These are not going to be used, but we need them in the scene. Okay, they need to be in the scene. So here we have the fill from the fill media bundle I created, and here I have the matte from the matte media bundle I created. Okay, I'm just gonna save one more time. one thing that you may have realized that we're getting really bad quality video for this fill, okay, which is not what we want. So there are a couple of more settings we need to tweak inside the fill media bundle. So let's open it up. And here, instead of 8-bit, because I'm sending 10-bit, select 10-bit and is sRGB input and tick it. Okay, so if you're getting bad video, just tweak these two. And now you save it and the video will display correctly now. Okay, so what we need to do next is we're going to have to work with Composure now to composite those images together. So if you haven't done so yet, you just go into plugins and type Composure, and you will see Composure is listed here. You enable it and you restart. So now with Composure enabled, the plugin enabled, we have to go to Windows, Virtual Production, Composure is already selected, and I have the column here. So with Composure, what's going to happen is that instead of putting our talent inside Unreal Engine, it's going to just composite our keyed out image of the talent on top of the background, because we could just go ahead and just place a talent inside Unreal Engine, but the talent would be affected by post-process effects and also anti-aliasing, which is not what we want. So here we're going to composite a talent footage on top of the background, okay, just like we do in other programs like After Effects or whatever. So here in the Composure window, you right click it, you create a new composition, okay, create a new empty composition, and you can just name it tutorial. All right, so here you have your comp is empty here. So right click it on your comp and add a layer element. So we're going to add 2 media plates. What are the media plates? They are the 2 separate inputs we're getting from the Ultimatte 4K, the matte and the fill. So we need to add 2 of them. One. Oh, but I don't see anything. All you have to do is expand it here. Media plate 1, I'm just gonna call it fill, okay? And then I'm gonna click here on the comp, which is named tutorial, and add another layer element, and I'm going to choose media plate again, and I'm going to call this matte, okay? Just because I named them so doesn't mean they are configured correctly inside of Composure. We still need to configure them, but there's one more thing you need to add, and that is the background, okay? The background layer. So go, okay, again, click on your comp, and then add another layer element, and this time you choose a CG layer, okay? You just leave it like the CG element 1, but you can also name it background. So okay, so for now what's happening here is that we have a comp here, okay, and then inside this comp you have your fill, your matte. We haven't combined them yet, but they will be combined on top of the background, which is your background. Okay, before the background, now we need a camera. We need to have a camera in the scene. Let's see if I have a camera. Let me just type it here. Okay, camera. Okay, I have one here, so I'm just gonna pilot it, and I'm just gonna, okay, so this aspect ratio is not what we need, so let me unpilot it, and I'm just gonna add my own camera. Okay, cinematic cine camera actor. Okay, so this is my own camera. I need to add it to the scene. This is called camera 2. I'm just going to rename it tutorial camera. Camera for organization purposes. So you have a camera here. Because you have a camera here, you need to add it to your comp. Let's go back to the Composure window, tutorial, which is your comp. Okay, and now let's expand this menu a little bit. So if you go down here to Composure, remember okay, because Composure is a little complicated the first time you use it. It gets easier as you repeat the process, but first you click on your comp, okay, and then here under input you need to select the camera. I have 2 cameras. I'm gonna select my tutorial camera because Composure needs to know, okay, what camera you want to use for this compositing. Otherwise, there's no camera. So here we have so far selected your camera to serve as a Composure camera. Now what we need to do is configure the fill and matte frameworks that we have here, the plates that we have here. Okay, for now our comp is still empty because we haven't configured anything yet. The background is not empty because it already exists. It's your UE scene, but we need to configure the fill and matte. So here, if you click on the fill, you'll see that there's no media source. In order to fix that, you need to go to your Blackmagic fill media bundle that you created. When you created that, another folder was automatically created. So you need to go into that folder and select, not open, just select the media texture and just apply by clicking on this arrow. Oh, but you see, it's all white, and this is a bug with Composure. So in order to fix this, you go back here into the content drawer. You will need to open this media texture. With this open, you have something called output format. You have the default sRGB and sRGB linear output. You need to switch it and save it. And then you need to switch it back. You don't want to change it. I don't know why you need to do this, but you need to do this and save it. And by doing that, now it displays correctly. I don't know why, but that's what you need to do. It took me a long time to realize that. Onto matte, you need to do the same thing. Open your content browser, go back to my folder here, Blackmagic stuff. BMD matte media bundle that I created has its own inner assets. You need to select it and click here. And for some reason, it just got imported. Okay, so now you have your fill and you have your matte and you have your background, but the comp is still empty. So now what we need to do we need to create a material to composite everything together and tell our comp uses material, which are coordinates to tell the comp what is a foreground, what is a background. And since we have fill and matte inputs coming from the Ultimatte, we also need to configure that inside the material for them to display correctly. So what we need to do right here, let me go back to my Blackmagic stuff, right click, create material, and I will just name it comp material. With your material open now, you select it, and then the material domain has to be post-process. Okay, so make sure it's selected as post-process. After you do that, you go ahead and you have to create 3 nodes called texture parameter 2D. Okay, you create it and you duplicate twice. Oops. Okay, let me just arrange them in order. Now we need to name them accordingly. Okay, we need to name these texture parameter 2D nodes correctly, but it's best practice to name them exactly as they are. Let me just first apply and save. As they are named inside Composure, okay? Because if you don't do that, if you name them differently, you will have to tell a Composure later in the menus what to connect to. So it's best practice to name them exactly as they are here: fill, matte, and background. Okay, let me open the material again. So the first one, I will name it. So the first one I will name it fill. Second one, I will name it matte. Third one, I will name it background. And we need another node to connect them all. So the first node we're going to need is called over. Okay. And another one is called make float 4. Okay, so we have these 2 nodes that will connect all these texture parameter 2Ds into the correct order. On your background node, you take the RGBA and connect it to the B in the over node. Now let's deal with the fill. Okay, for the fill, you have a make float here. You will take the red channel on the fill and connect it to the X on make float 4. You will take the green channel on the fill, connect it to the Y on make float 4, and you take the blue channel on the fill and connect it to the Z of the make float 4. And now for the matte texture parameter 2D, you will take the red channel and connect it to the alpha on the make float 4. Now take the result from the make float 4 and connect it to the A pin of the over node. Next, you take the output pin of the over node and connect it to the emissive inside the comp material. And your material has been created. Apply it and save it and close it for now. Okay, now with everything set up, we need to go back to our comp tutorial. And now we're going to have to deal with the transform compositing passes. You expanded transform passes. We're going to have to place our material here, the material we just created, to tell the comp how everything is organized. Click on the plus button. And here in the material slot, you will just select the material, comp material that you made. Okay, and now the comp has been created. As you can see here now, the fill is here, the matte is here, the background is here, and if you click on the master mode of the comp, you can see that the comp has been created. What happens if you named these things incorrectly? You have the fill and matte in your material. Okay, opening the material again. The reason I told you need to name these things the same way they are named in Composure is that if you don't do that, it's not the end of the world. But if you don't do that, they would not display correctly, and you would have to tell the material and the comp material here inside the comp menu which is which. So let's say I named my fill here is named Bob, for example. Then I would just have to select it and tell the comp what they're named so that UE knows what to connect to. But because I named them correctly, they are displaying correctly right at the first time here. Okay, so if you click on the tutorial here, it shows a window pops up here. This is not a camera window, this is a comp window, the same as with your fill and matte. They may look like cameras, but they're not. So clicking on your camera here and just pinning it to veil, this way it doesn't disappear when you click something else. And now if I pilot my real camera here, not this one, tutorial, let me unpilot it so that I can show you better. So I have my camera here. If I pilot it, and whenever I move the camera, you can see that in the comp view, my background's angle is changing, okay, to whatever I want it to be. So here, for example, if I want to put my talent here, the talent is not going to change, okay, because the talent is on top of your 3D world. So that's what you need to be careful about, okay? The talent is on the top of the 3D world, so only the camera is changing, so you're compositing it inside the camera. So basically what we did here was a very simple composite done inside UE5 with the Ultimatte 4K providing the separate fill and matte outputs, and UE5 receiving those inputs and blending them, compositing them together. And the comp that we created places the actor on top of the scene. Okay, so what we did today here was we created a media bundle, and we created a fill bundle which tells UE which tells UE about the fill signal that's coming from the Ultimatte, and also we created a matte media bundle which tells UE the matte signal that's coming from the Ultimatte, and then they are here, fill and matte. The background is our scene, we didn't have to do anything with that, and then we also needed a material to composite everything together on top of each other, and we use this comp material here. Okay, you see that the colors look very different here. So what would we do here? Okay, so I see that my background color is looking a little weird. My foreground is looking fine, but my background is looking a little weird. So what I would do here is I would add a maybe OCIO color configuration or a tone map pass, but I would add them specifically to a targeted layer and not to the whole comp. You could do that, but if I wanted to fix the background a little bit, for example, I could click on a background. I could go to, let me see. Okay, we have transform compositing passes. And here I would add one. I already added, that's why it says index here. And here I would choose a tone map pass, for example. Okay, a tone map pass would enable me to do color correction. Okay, also I would be able to change the film stock settings if I wanted to change the slope a little bit, or if I wanted to change the toe. You could play around with this whatever way you wanted. And also here you have film stock settings, but also you have color grading settings. Okay, you could deal with the saturation if you wanted to, okay, or if you wanted to deal with the contrast, you could also do that here, or remove some of that contrast. And if you click back on the comp itself, only the background was affected. The foreground remains unaffected. If you wanted to affect everything, you would go to the comp itself and also go to a transform pass. We already have one, which is a material, but we could add another one. I already added here, but let's just imagine you have nothing added here. Or you can even, okay, you can delete it, but if you went back here and selected another one, you have two array elements already added, so I'm not going to add any other one, but you could go here to the plus button and then select a tone map pass, and that would give you the same tweaking ability, but this time for the whole comp. You would be able to come here and color grade it, and also use film back settings if you want it, but this time for the whole comp instead of just the background. Okay, so just keep in mind that you can change these color settings for everything. You could also add a color pass to the fill or matte, which you wouldn't want to do, and also the background, and then to the whole comp. So you can do all these things here. Instead of doing color grading inside using a tone map pass, I would suggest you first use an OCIO to match all the different color spaces together, and then come into the comp and do color grading if you need it. What if you wanted to send this final comp to a monitor or a recorder via SDI? You would need to create a Blackmagic output. Okay, let's do that right now. So in the beginning we created a media bundle. This time we're going to click on media, Blackmagic media output, name it whatever you want, and here under configuration you would have to choose a slot, a port in your capture card that's available. Remember, I'm using one for my fill and another one for my matte, so I don't want to go back to the computer to see which one is available, but this is just for testing purposes. Let's say number 4 is available for me and I want it in 4K 30 frames per second. I will just do that and save it here. And now if you go back to the comp, you could go to an output. You go to an output here, add, okay, you see there are many menus. One is called output, add an array element. I have one already. Okay, and I will just choose compositing media capture output. I will choose the resolution, and that would be configured. So this comp here would be sent to that specific output via SDI, and then you would be able to record it or send it to a monitor and probably do whatever you wanted with it. So this is how it would do the whole thing, compositing inside Unreal Engine. I hope you understand, and I hope you learned something today. So if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. Part 3. Aximmetry's built-in keyer. Connect your camera via HDMI or SDI to your computer's capture card. So what we're going to do now is use my live camera feed with Aximmetry, and use Aximmetry's built-in keyer with Unreal Engine scene. I will walk you through the whole process. So as you can see, I have a scene here. Okay, you have both ways of doing this. You can either create an empty Aximmetry empty project with the Aximmetry version of the of Unreal Engine. When you download Aximmetry, it comes with a version of Unreal Engine. You can start the project right there and then import your own scene into that project. That's the standard and correct way to do it. However, I have to say that I prefer downloading my own project and then right-clicking on it and choose to change the engine version and choose open with Aximmetry for Unreal for Aximmetry, because I find that the settings of that project and the lighting information works better when I have the project ready and then just open it with the Aximmetry, Unreal for Aximmetry, as opposed to creating an empty project with Aximmetry and then importing my project into the Aximmetry version of Unreal, because that new project with a blank project might have different settings and it might look the same. With that said, let's begin. So when I open my project here in Unreal, what I do is I go into project settings, type custom depth, you can see here that it says enabled, and you change it to enable with stencil, and then I type planar reflections. Okay, planar, support global clip plane for planar reflections. I just check it. The engine is going to ask you to restart, but don't do that yet because you still have a couple of things to say. Maps and modes. Okay, first thing you have to do is create an Aximmetry mode. Here we have a game mode base. What is that? I'm not going to explain here in this tutorial, but create a new mode and just call it Aximmetry. And then here you have your new mode selected, Aximmetry, default pawn class. Change it from default pawn to none. And now both your editor startup map and game default map have to be the same. My map is called library, so I will just make sure both of them are the same. So every time it opens with this map. If you have different maps in a project and you only click this map, it might create some errors. Okay, so make sure that the map you want to use is selected to open as soon as you open the project. Packaging. This is an interesting thing. Not everybody does that, but I like to tell Aximmetry because my Unreal project may have different maps, and I want to tell Aximmetry what map I want to cook and leave everything else uncooked. Why would I do that? Because cooking takes a lot of time. Okay, so as you can see here, I expanded the advanced tab here. Now go look for list of maps to include in a packaged build. What you want to do here is you want to go where your project is located, which is this one, and you want to find the map, library, maps, and this one. This tells Aximmetry to only cook this map. You might have different maps in your project, and cooking might take a long time, but if you just tell Aximmetry to cook this one, it will make things much faster. Okay, so I like to do that. So this part here is fine. Now go down into input here. Make sure you scroll down, untick show console on 4-finger tap, and then open this drop down and clear. Okay. So I believe that's all you gotta do here. Then go to Aximmetry menu, add camera. I'm using a virtual camera. An Aximmetry virtual camera will be added to your scene. Do not worry where it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you move it or not. It will always start here. Okay, and now you save. And you need to restart. Okay, with your project restarted, go ahead and click on Aximmetry, cook content for Aximmetry. And now you're going to have to wait. The cooking loading bar here, the spinning bar here, is outside of outside of the boundaries of my project, because I'm resizing the Unreal Engine window to fit my ultra wide, so I can record it in 16:9 so you can see it. Okay, the cooking has been completed. What I can do now is close it, and now I need to open it up in Aximmetry. Okay, with Aximmetry selected, on this computer in my studio I use a Decklink 8K Pro, which has 4 independent input and output ports. But my small studio here has a Decklink 4K Extreme 4G, which has only 1 out and 1 in. Okay, so right now I'm not doing anything with this because I'm not recording this the output of my Aximmetry to my external monitor, which is a Ninja 5. So I'm not gonna assign anything to it. Okay, I'm doing a screen recording in OBS, so I don't need to set up anything here. If you want to output your program from Aximmetry to another monitor, which you can see here, number 2 is I have 3 monitors set up here. This is being sent to my monitor 2. And if I want to send it to via SDI to another recorder, I will just assign a number here, but I'm not doing that. So what I'm going to do is just apply. Okay, so now we have an empty project. The first thing you have to do is make a new compound. Okay, make a new compound here. Go to new compound, and now you've made a new compound. Now you need to bring that map that you just cooked into Aximmetry. Mine is under desktop, Oxford Library, and I'll just bring it in here and wait for it to load. You might see a bunch of errors here. Most of them are not important. Some of them you cannot ignore, but most of them you can. Now it is time to add a virtual camera. I go into here, Common Studio, Camera, Virtual Camera, Unreal. Okay, it's a virtual camera. I just drop it in, I drag and drop it here. I will connect the pins, cam transform, horizontal field of view, focus distance, and now B1 data until the last yellow pin here is your billboard 1. You have 3 billboards here, okay? I'm only going to use 1 billboard, so I'm only going to connect the pins for billboard 1. Out to rendered, B-mask to B-mask, preview so that I can see it here, and the out is going to go to my monitor. You can't see it because you only see my screen recording, but that's okay. So now the scene is set up correctly. So what do I do now? Okay, I go onto this billboard tab, and I need to set up my live feed. Input 1, as I said, you have 3 billboards. You have input 1 here. I want to select my Blackmagic 4K Extreme 12G. And now if I go to input, you can see that I have my room set up here. Well, but that's not what you wanted to see, right? You wanted to see me there. But the problem is I'm here. I'm not in the other room, so I cannot be there and still do this tutorial. So you have a little doll here. This is just for tutorial purposes. that's what you would do. Under input 1, okay, you can turn it on or off. Turn off test. It will just select the live feed coming from the SDI to my computer. I selected my Blackmagic here, and that's how you would start dealing with a live feed, okay? But I'm not gonna do that, okay? Because I want to put a video of a video loop of me so that you can look at me instead of looking at this doll. But I just wanted to tell you and teach you how to set it up anyways. So what I'm gonna do here is close it, and I'll bring a video. Okay, I'll bring in a video, and now I'll plug this video to test input 1. Okay, and now you can see a video of me looping. If you don't have, when you're using a video, you need to plug it into the test input. If you just bringing in your live camera feed, you don't need a video. You just go to billboards and set it up here, okay? Okay, it's still me, so you can see me here. Now we can start this this part of the tutorial. So the first thing you have to decide is, who do you want to render your scene, Unreal Engine or Aximmetry? And that's the very first thing I advise everybody to do. You go to camera here, camera and render setup. When you click on it, to its right, you can see a bunch of menus. You can see one menu called Allow Virtuals that is on. What Allow Virtuals does is that it lets Unreal Engine render your live feed. So it's it matches your lighting better. You will see later. It matches your lighting better, and it merges you with the environment better, but it reduces the quality of your input a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. The resolution gets compressed a little bit. Well, if you have a 4K video stream coming in, that's okay-ish. If you have an 8K one, well, I don't know what computer can render that, but if it's a 4K live feed, you might be okay with that small degradation of picture quality. But if it's a 1080p, then you will start to see a blurry image if your camera in Aximmetry gets close to the billboard. What I will do here, I will just turn it off, okay? So that's something you have to decide, because that will affect the coloring and the color grading and the signal. So just do that first as soon as your input is live. Go to camera render and setup, and choose if you want Allow Virtuals on, which means Unreal Engine is rendering it, and or Allow Virtuals off. That means Aximmetry is compositing your video on top of the scene, okay? Okay, with that done, let's go to billboards now. You don't have to touch anything here under input. Here, monitor, you can see your input, and you can see the final. Wow, I'm in a very different position, but we'll talk about that soon. We're here for keying. Input, that's your live input or your looped video, and now cropped, okay? So for cropping, because as you can see, my studio extends out of boundaries, so I want to crop that, so I only focus on the green part of my studio and me, like so. On the top here, have a little bit of the microphone, and that's okay now. So now we're going to have to deal with keying, okay? Touch on the key. You have a key monitor and a key tab, okay? So for keying, because as you can see from this looping video, I walk in and I walk out of the frame, so I'll freeze the input here. So I'll freeze the input here. Remember, you have to have keyer selected. And now I can key. As you can see, Aximmetry has already done most of the keying job, which is not what I want. So I'll reset everything. I'll reset the things that can be reset. Okay, so here we have my input is frozen so that it doesn't move around. The Aximmetry keyer is called Advanced B. In monitor mode is set to final. I want to look at the matte quality, okay? So this is where the keying happens. Alright, so here you have two options here, low cut and high cut. Low cut will just separate the background and you. You must be white and the background must be entirely black. Whatever is gray is being sent is transparent, but you can still see through. So for the low cut, you will pull it here. Okay, so it's all black now. You can't see anything, which is what we want. However, according to Aximmetry's website, the best is that this value is set to 0.1 to 0.4. At 0.1 to 0.4, this whole green screen should already be all black. But my green screen setup is far from optimal, so I'll need a lot more. You know, I need to level up this low cut, but that will affect the quality of the key, like the hair or you know, edges and everything. So what I suggest you do is first go to at most 0.04, and if you still have transparency here, you go to your lighting setup and you tweak the lights as best as you can. And if doing that still doesn't fix this problem, then you can go up and make it all dark. And now let's make the talent completely white, because all the this, you know, gray area of my skin here is going to become transparent. So we don't want you want to be transparent, but you don't want it to be able to see through. So you pull it down a little bit, and now you're supposed to have a good key. With that applied, you go back to final, and I think it's done a pretty good job. And if you hit here final, which is your final program, you will be able to see if it kitted well or not. However, I need to move this camera because this is not where I want to be. In cameras here, this is not a tutorial how to set up Aximmetry, is more of a keying tutorial. I have my free look here. I want to touch on my free look because I want to be able to check where my billboard is. I see my billboard is right here. You can, I don't want to do it through here. Okay, so what you can also do here, I forgot how this works, but anyways, let's do it the old-fashioned way. Billboard, oh, it's here. So by setting this menu here, I don't know if you can see, it's like just like an Unreal up, down, and depth and X, Y, and Z. By selecting it and put it under preview, which is my screen over here, you're able to move your billboard. Okay, move it to wherever you want. Okay, I'm in free look. I want to put this guy close to a table. Should have set it up in Unreal, but anyways. Okay, so you can move it up and down. You can, oops, I don't know what I did. Okay, with the gizmo here, move up and down, depth, and lateral movement. Okay, you place it where you want it to be. Go back to camera. Now, if you hit on your camera wheel here, now it's time for you to choose A and B of the camera. Okay, the position of the camera. I see my billboard is here. If you think the mouse movement and the camera movement is too fast, just press shift while you scroll with the mouse. This will make it so the movements are very slight movements. Okay, I think this is where I want it to be. So this is the path A. I don't want to do path today, so I will just copy path A to path B, because I don't need any camera movement today. So now, as you can see, I have been keyed and I've been placed inside the scene. Was the keying done well? Well, let's get close. Back to A. That's what I'm talking about when I say blurry image. What I mean is that this is a billboard placed inside Aximmetry, so you cannot, if you get too close to it, you just don't have enough resolution. Okay, that's why if you have a 4K signal, it is much better. If you use a low virtuals, will degrade the image a little bit. I don't know if you can see, but it will apply some cool effects that will make you merge, mix together with the environment better. I don't want to do that, so I will just make sure my character is positioned where I want it to be. Okay, so why is it moving? Oh, the camera. Okay, A and B, I want them to be the same. Okay, so here, what else can I do here? If you go back to Billboard, you unpause, unfreeze the input, and now it's being okay. And I think the setup is complete at this point. Okay, so let's just go over a few more things. Let's wait for him to come back. I mean me. Okay, I'm here and I freeze the input again because I recorded a looping animation, but I'm coming in and out of the frame. So, all right. So what else can you do here? First thing you can do here is go to the adjuster, and well, I have the color grading adjusted here. It's on. I want to keep it on, but I want to reset everything so I can fit it best with the look of the environment. Okay, so here what I do is it's too bright. Okay, and the contrast, let's see, I need a little bit more contrast, okay, to mix it better with the scene. Too saturated. Okay, gamma here, I want to pull it up a little bit. I want to add a little blue because the scene is a little blue and green. Oops. Nothing was happening. Okay. Okay, so this is the gist of it. Back in camera, I can choose the focal length of my camera by pressing space and using the mouse scrolling wheel. No, not using the left, press and hold space and use the left click on the mouse. That's how you go from a wide angle to a tight shot, okay? And if I press Alt and space, hold Alt and space, and I pull with my left mouse button, I will be able to create the focus that I want. Okay, so this is how you do it in Aximmetry. Okay, what we did here today is basic stuff. I brought in my live feed. It's not a live feed, but I explained the reasons why. And you also have a clean plate. You can use this, but it's not in today's video. You can use a clean plate if your camera doesn't move. And here, low cut. Remember, low cut is advised that you just use it a little bit, and if you have to go all the way up to 0.33, it's probably that your green screen lighting is uneven. Okay, and the other menus that you can see here, you can go over the documentation, Aximmetry documentation. It will explain it better. But there's one more thing here that I'd like you to know of. Light wrap. Very subtle. I can see, maybe you cannot see it from this video, but I can see it being applied. Light wrap is just meant to merge you with the environment better by allowing the reflections from the environment to bounce on you. So for example, if I do it way more strong here, you can see what's happening. Okay, you can see what's happening here. Too much bounced lights. Of course, you don't want to do that. I'm doing this way because I don't know if you can see in the video. You tweak it slightly, but you cannot see the difference in the video, probably because of YouTube compression. But that's what I would do. Strength, way too strong. Okay. Okay, and that is it. So you set up your Aximmetry scene. This part of the tutorial is where you use Aximmetry's built-in keyer with your live footage or your looping video. Okay, So that's how you do it. Thank you for watching. Let's go over the next step. Part 4, Aximmetry with the Ultimatte 4K. So as promised in the previous video, now I'm going to teach you how to use Ultimatte 4K with separate matte and fill outputs with Aximmetry to be used as Aximmetry's main keyer. As you can see here, everything has been set up already. I have a UV scene here with the virtual camera. This tutorial is not about how to set up your scene in UV and how to cook it. You should already know how to do that. This tutorial is simply it's simply about how to use the Ultimatte with Aximmetry. So with this setup here done, the magic happens here in the billboards, okay? Because you're sending two different signals through SDI from the Ultimatte, you need to tell Aximmetry which is which. So here in the keyer tab, I have selected external keyer instead of the usual advanced B, which is Aximmetry's keyer. And here also in the external keyer in matte device, I'm choosing my matte signal, okay, which is coming through from the Ultimatte. From the Ultimatte's matte output, it's coming through via my capture card's port 1. So this is my matte, okay. I select my matte device here, and then on the input tab, I need to tell Aximmetry what my fill is, okay. And my fill, the signal from the Ultimatte, the fill from the Ultimatte is coming in through the port number 2 in my capture card. So that's why I selected it here. You need to select this carefully, otherwise you will not display correctly. Another thing is, sometimes in the Ultimatte software, the combined matte might be inverted, okay. You can tweak that inside the Ultimatte, but for example in my Ultimatte right now I chose to invert the matte, okay. And if I choose to do so in my Ultimatte software control, I need to untick this here, because if I don't, the matte will be inverted here, okay. I'm already inverting the matte inside my Ultimatte software. You don't have to do that, but that's how my Ultimatte software control is set up. So I need to untick this inside my key tab inside Aximmetry. So as you can see here, everything is already set up correctly. Obviously, I'm not going to pull a perfect key, because that's not what the tutorial is about, okay. And also I don't have an extra monitor to see my Ultimatte's output, to see my combined matte, to see what parts are not being keyed correctly, okay. So I might do a tutorial on that soon, but I'm just showing you how to use Ultimatte with Aximmetry. So as you can see here now, my talent is already keyed and it's inside the Aximmetry scene. And now with that done, I can just move my camera around whatever way I want, just like I would normally do, inside Aximmetry if I were using Aximmetry's own keyer. That doesn't impact anything. I can also change the location of my billboard and do anything that I would do otherwise using Aximmetry's own keyer. So just because you're using an external keyer doesn't mean that the billboard or the camera movements will be different, okay. So all you're doing is setting it up inside Aximmetry. So remember, the keyer expects a matte signal, okay. So whatever matte input is plugged into your capture card has to be matching here, same port, and you need to tell Aximmetry what the matte device is. And in the input tab, you need to tell Aximmetry what the fill is. It's not written fill, but that's the input receives the fill signal and the keyer receives the matte signal. And just make sure that you changed keyer type from Aximmetry Advanced B to external keyer. And that's it. I hope you learned something today, and if you have any questions, drop a comment and I'll see you around.